Hello to you, Kingy.
Morning, G. How are you?
Oh, there's so much to work through here.
Cracking weekend again, wasn't it?
What a round.
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. And the result yesterday, I think, just gives the season a bit of energy, gives everyone a bit of a hope that, hey, maybe they're not just that dominant, that they're not gettable. We've talked about them for a while. There's vulnerabilities in every team, and it's just a matter of whether you're good enough to explore them and seriously challenge. But it was just great to see Melbourne back to their defensive best.
That's going to be the big issue. But before we do, the King's Gambit to get us underway.
Well, just having a look at this stage of the year. Okay, so the first 10 rounds for me, I think the premiers generally go 5-5, 6-4. You know, sometimes a fraction better, but it's not absolute. They're exploring what they are in the current season. They're often coming off a deep run the previous season, so they're not going absolute 100% rat power, and they're prepared to take some losses along the way to find out what they're working with. So, if you look from this point forward, and I think there's the last 2 weeks of the bye rounds, the next 2 weeks, then that's it. Then you've got to make your charge, because it's all about now shaping over the next 8-10 weeks to work out how you can win the flag, how you can win those pointy end games to try and minimise your warts, if you like. So Geelong last year won 16 in a row post round 10. The year before, Melbourne was 7 in a row. Then you got Richmond, who won 8 of 9 on the way home, lost the first final, gathered and came again. In 2019, they won 12 in a row. So it's this stage of the year where the good teams have been building towards. Now, there's a fair bit to go into this. I think the number one chase is for health. So if you're at the pointy end of the table, like Port Adelaide and Collingwood and now Melbourne, then you do get some luxuries in terms of resting some players, whether it be in-game or game-to-game, and you also get the opportunity to try and get your injury list massaged to the back half of the year. So I'm just to look at a few teams, okay? So Essendon are going to get back, Parrish, Shield, Setterfield. So they're going to come back in. They're going to get a lot stronger. You got Fremantle get back, Darcy, Brodie. I don't know whether Chapman's in their best team or not at the moment. He's probably not quite there. Howe, Elliott, Sidebottom, McStay. Who comes in, who goes out? So the crunch is on now. So if you're in the team, you've got a fight on your hands to hang on to your spot. And there's some good players that are going to miss out. And we'll get to some of those in a moment. And there's some players who have had great starts to the year but have lost their way a little bit. So the crunch will come for those guys. So when you look at your team, so not necessarily this week, get through the bye weeks, the ins now become more important for me than the outs over the next block. And then we talk about the outs when we get to round sort of 20. You can't lose them at that stage of the year, because you've done all your building and all your markers along the way. So I still think you've got only a couple of weeks left to experiment. And we have been talking about different players in different roles. We talked about Dane Zorko last week. We talked about Aaron Naughton, the week before that or 2 weeks before that. So you've still got a couple of weeks to have a look at things. But I reckon once the bye rounds are over, you got to work out what you are and how you can win it.
You want to be buttoned up by round 16.
Yep.
Okay. So the big issue was, what did we learn yesterday with Melbourne's defeat of Collingwood?
Oh, I don't think it's funny because Collingwood had lost, 3 home and away games in 18 months. So it didn't really matter to me whether they won or not. It was just the challenge of how they play. Can Melbourne, who are a defensively geared team, contest and defence, that's all that Simon Goodwin talks about. You wonder whether they could match/dominate Collingwood in that area. And you have to say they did. I mean, they kept Collingwood to 9 goals. Apart from the first sort of 15 minutes, they looked like they had a pretty good handle on Collingwood. First 15 minutes and probably for about 10 minutes in the last quarter, I thought this is game on again. But they handled that really well. I thought they were ripe for a loss, Collingwood. Now, I'm not downgrading Melbourne's performance at all. And we talked about the hands and eyes. When I see Melbourne do the hands and eyes stuff defensively and get that grid defence set up really quickly, then I think they're a different team. I think they can float through games in the past, and not every game is absolute. And we just had that discussion. So when I see them doing that, and then I see their leaders absolutely just stand at the front and lead the way. And Max Gawn, that's probably the best ruck game I've seen Max Gawn play for some time. They were plus 10 clearances when he was in the ruck. That's a big number. We haven't seen Max do that. Jack Viney, I heard Gary talk about Jack this morning. Couldn't agree more. So he had 9 clearances. His best previous game for clearances was the grand final of 2021.
Right.
We had 12. In that same prelim series, he had 9. So that's what they get. Without Oliver, it wasn't noticeable. He's a great player, Clayton Oliver, great player. And if you put that magnet back in, that's what we're talking about. You get significantly better. But with Viney playing like that, it wasn't stark to the eye to say, oh, gee, they're missing Oliver. You didn't feel that was the case. And then I just thought Melbourne's ability to get maximum impact out of the third rung of player. Guys that you wouldn't think would lead the way, McVee, Rivers. I thought Hibberd had a cracking game. Yeah, some of the things that he did were just terrific. And it highlighted the importance to me, and he's missed a lot of footy over the last sort of period. Christian Salem. He's that, we talk a lot about the guys that set up play and their kicking's really good and all that sort of thing, but just making the right decisions. It's just being a senior AFL player, making the right decision at the right time to go, to hold, to kick, to handball, to take the risk, to not take the risk. He just makes the right decisions at the right time. So I was probably, he was probably the one for me, Salem, of all the pieces. And you get what you get out of Petrarca, and I know there's some problems still with their forward line and all that sort of stuff. But I just thought to see Salem do that in his own way, he probably won't get 10 votes in the coaches' award, but I got no doubt Simon Goodwin would say, look, that was, I've been waiting to see that and wanting to see that. So a lot to like about Melbourne's performance. And Collingwood were off. I haven't seen Scott Pendlebury make 3 mistakes in 3 years. He made 3 in about 4 minutes, and they all hurt. And in the end, they go under by a goal. So the season's open, which is great for everyone. But I still think they are. The competition is chasing Collingwood in a lot of different assets in a lot of different ways. But good to see Melbourne play that brand of footy.
So I don't think any other team has the defensive setup that Melbourne's got. So that worked very much for Melbourne. They had a carefully crafted plan. I think you can take it back to the all duck, no dinner conversation of last year. That was Melbourne's private dialogue, which spilled out into the public. They took Collingwood's duck away. Can anyone else take Collingwood's duck away in the way that Melbourne did, given the pieces that Melbourne have to do it?
Yeah. This goes back to go back to things stick in your mind. When I think it was 2 years ago, you said to me, look, the oil and water discussion. When oil plays oil, you get a cracking contest. There might be both contested teams, and you can just sit there and say whoever's tougher wins today. But when you have oil and water, so they want to hold their 2 pillars, one as a loose and one threatening to be a loose, Lever and May. They want to hold them. So the anti-venom for that is to run the ball at them, so they're never comfortable. Now, in the first quarter, I showed a couple of clips where they ran the ball and Lever has to trade up. He has to come charging out a wall of players. He knows he has no chance of impacting that, but the team says you have to go. You have to force that player to make a decision and try and break the line if you can. So he did that, and then they went over the top of May. So that's Collingwood's plan, is to do that. Now, they did that without De Goey, who I think's their number one decision maker when he gets the ball forward of centre. So there's a massive hole there. So you're asking others to make those decisions in real time. Lipinski was very good coming back, but you just don't get the same quality as a De Goey type decision maker. So they never paid full price for those. But the asset of Lever and May, as you say, is very hard to stop for 120 minutes, and I don't think anyone does. But when you do get them for a space of 10 to 15, you've got to get it on the scoreboard. And they were good enough around the edges. And I keep saying that because to me it wasn't just those 2 guys. I thought Rivers was absolutely terrific yesterday. His ability to win the ball back. Him and Salem had 9 intercepts for the day.
Yep.
They led Melbourne. So you watch it and it's not just Lever and May, but it's the others that know what those 2 are doing and can work off that. So there's no secrets really in footy. everyone knows what the other team's trying to do, and it's just a matter of whether you can perform and you can execute under pressure and all those sorts of things. And then, as I said, Simon Goodwin, I think, set the week up really well. He took us all down one path and was really going down another. Tried to build up the Brodie Grundy stuff and going to be their first bounce, going to do all this, going to all these starts on the bench. So I just think I take my hat off to Melbourne's leaders. I love Melbourne's leaders. They're 9 out of 10 performers every week.
Was it just me, or did Melbourne's forward line function best for the 10 minutes at the start of the third quarter when Gawn played out of the square, Van Rooyen was on the bench and Grundy played in the ruck?
Yeah.
Their forward line is a fascination.
It is a fascination, and I think it's a constant dilemma for them. The mix looks like they've got the right mix, but then you sometimes see it, and they're kicking the ball to Cozzy Pickett, and then the other times you look at it. So they've gone to Fritz 6 times, Van Rooyen 5 times, Gawn and Pickett 4. Now, Pickett looked like he was trying to take mark of the year every time the ball come in. And the problem that you've got when that's the case is you get beaten at ground level if your smalls are flying, because your smalls should be there to crumb the spilt ball. So at ground level, they were beaten by 12, so 28-16 at ground level. I just wonder if they've got that. This is why I don't like small full forwards. I think that in big games it can let you down. Now, they've made it work, and Fritz has kicked 6 and a granny, and they've made it work before with beautiful ball movement on the biggest of days. But when it looks clunky, it looks really clunky. So I just wonder whether the traditional tall full forward and then the smalls having reference points would help. But I don't think they're overly fussed with what anyone else thinks. I don't think they care about with the outside noise. They just say contest and defence.
It's a big part of PFI for them because it's all about how it functions on preliminary final night. If Cozzy was a racehorse, it would be time for winkers, tongue tie, like the whole set. Stop doing this and get busy doing that. This is post-round 13. Our debate shortly around the dangerous tackle and the two tribunal hearings tonight, Dan Butler and James Sicily, which have caused an inferno of discussion and the broader point as well. North Melbourne aren't in our means test, but M from Elwood has texted through. Morning, G. Watching George Wardlaw play again, I finally realised which former player he reminds me of. It's Kingy. Head down, dogged determination, scruffy, haphazard. No. But once ball in hand, good decision maker and finisher.
He's tougher than me. I'll tell you what, someone said he reminded him of Paul Kelly last week. And I thought that was a great, I tell you what, I hope he becomes Paul Kelly.
Yeah.
We're pretty happy with that. He's a beauty.
The pressure index, this is, sometimes you have a magnet that is just super glued to the board. That's Carlton in the pressure index and has been all year. They're now playing bottom 4 footy and they're in the bottom 4. What a slide this has been across the 6 weeks that was going to determine their worth. I could never have imagined they would go 0-6. How do you want to attack the Carlton problem?
Well, from many directions, really. But can I just start with what's the responsibility of the coach? What are you asking the coach to do? And this is what's really infuriating me about the feedback at the moment for Michael Voss. And I understand that if you just want to look at the win-loss sheet, which in the end is the thing that hires and fires, I get that. But if that's all you're looking at, then you're going to bounce around and change with the breeze every 2 weeks. I think you've got to be better than that. I think you've got to look deeper than that. If you're going to comment on the game, actually invest in what's happening. What he created, Vossi, and his job, in my opinion, game day, is to create the method, the opportunity to win that given game of footy. So a lot of things go into that. Selection, the tinkering of your standard plan, to have a plan that can win you games, and then to make adjustments along the way. So in the end, whether you like it or not, Michael Voss created a team that won 17 more contested possessions, won 3 more around the ground clearances, and 15 more inside 50s than their opposition. Now, I don't know what more you can do than that to give the team the opportunity to win. Now, I get all the feedback, so don't even bother sending it through to me, right? The fact that they cannot convert in front of goal is so confidence destroying to this outfit in game that it's brought a pressure of its own that has engulfed this whole forward 50 now. It's now affecting Charlie Curnow, who could never miss. Was the best kick in the comp at goal. Now he's starting to kick it like Harry. So I feel for Vossi because what he's done is pretty good. The tag of merit was a big tick. Now, when he went forward, should they have committed? Should they have gone again with that tag? You can argue a case there. But at the end of the day, when you look, their forward 50 are 8th at scores per entry, but they're 18th at goals from entry. So it's an accuracy thing. All their problems, I keep saying it, they're small problems with large ramifications. So to fix them, and I'm getting sick of the pile-on from their own, the small minority, it'd be 10% of Carlton supporters. But those 10%, you know what they should do? They should ring them up and say, listen, thanks for your support over the years. Here's your money back for this year's membership. We don't really need you. If you're not going to be there through the challenging times, don't ride the wave when we win the thing. They've got a good coach, Jared. I'm a Michael Voss believer. I've said that for weeks. I've put that out there, and I understand that some aren't. But that second quarter on the weekend was as good as you get. As good as you get to separate the game. They should have had a 5-goal lead on that second quarter alone. I think they led by 4 points or trailed by 4 points. It was under a goal.
Yeah.
It was under a goal at half time. So it should have been a dominant margin which allowed some freedom for some error in the second half and to actually get some reward for the players who in the main are working really hard. Now, I don't just subscribe to this tackle number theory. If you play against a team that's going to chip the ball around and mark the ball, it's bloody hard. If you're going to tackle them, Jared, you're going to give away a lot of 50s, right? So that to me, that's a nonsense. 3-10 to 4-6 at halftime. That's the game. That's the game. So if I were one of the board or the senior hierarchy at Carlton, I'd be walking the voice saying, gee, you're doing a lot right, mate. Doing a lot right. Keep going. And I'm not saying you fly blind and you hope things are turned. You've still got to challenge players to play better. You've still got to ask more of Sam Walsh, and I heard him talking this morning. You've got to ask him to be more adventurous with the footy, to get his run and gun back, to not be accepting of pressure when it comes and just dispose of the footy. No, challenge, threat. Be a threat to step around or get through or put another player in a better space, make it easier for the kicker. Challenge Harry Mackay to get this goal kicking sorted, to invest in to now go and invest in someone outside of the club. So you know what, we've tried because clearly they've tried and it hasn't worked. So ring Steve Johnson and say, mate, can we get you to? We heard your comments on the weekend. Terrific. How do we get you to come down for 4 hours a week? Do something about these problems. Otherwise, that's an error. That's an error you may not recover from. But I think they're small things, Jared. I really do. So I'm sort of getting a little bit frustrated with the pylon because I don't think all the numbers support all the pylon.
So they're desperate for the bye. They've got to get through one more game before that and then take a breath. I think part of this is breathless, the way this has become a doom cycle for them, and part of it they're responsible for, and part of it's sort of the overall combustibility of their community.
Only if you're allowed to.
And then to resit for the last. I think it's hard to escape. When you can't get the circuit breaker of a win, it's hard to take that breath. I could never have imagined they would go 0-6 through this stretch.
No one could. But
the only way to get a circuit breaker is to get a win, and the tighter it gets, the tighter it gets. So I agree with what you said. Markers of a team going poorly, can't get it on the scoreboard. Then when they did get it on the scoreboard, they couldn't get a stop. So when Mackay finally kicks that goal, there's 4.5 minutes in the second, they give up the next 2 goals, the one straight out of centre clearance. You've got to get a stop sometimes. And then they had a short breaking point in the third quarter as soon as Essendon got hold of the shape of the game.
Yeah, I accept all these things. I'm not here saying they're winning the flag this year by any stretch, but the quick direction to go to sack the coach or put enormous pressure on him to the point where it self-combusts is wrong.
So many times. You can't live that again. It's ridiculous. That's the default position of some in the Carlton community.
So I'll tell you what we don't hear. We don't hear that in the last 6 weeks they're the hardest team to move the ball against coast to coast. We don't hear that. We don't hear that their stuff between the arcs is actually pretty good defensively. Very good. Top 4 or 5 in the competition. We don't hear that because they keep missing goals and eventually things puncture because you just lose hope in game and you pour so much energy and effort into that opportunity to score, and when you don't get it, things can fall apart. Now, I'm not saying they're getting everything right. I still think they've got a decision to make with Wiedering. Is he a prime intercept player, and he had 10 on the weekend? Or is he your best lockdown defender, your best one-on-one defender? Because I look at the one-on-one numbers, and his numbers are terrific, yet he doesn't play on Peter Wright. And I go, well, how does that? So what do you got there? Okay, so Wiedering's hardly lost. Where is he? He's lost. I think he's lost 2 one-on-ones for the year. So that's an outstanding number. But I wonder why he doesn't go on. He hasn't lost one since round 5. That were my notes there, just scrambling, Jared.
Yep.
He hasn't lost a one-on-one since round 5. Now, he had 10 intercepts on the weekend. So is that going to be his role? And they make him into that Matty Scarlett, Alex Rance, you take the second best, Harris Andrews, you take the second best and be the intercept. Well, if that's your role, hey, fantastic. I'd love him in that role. Then ask more of him. Okay, now we've got to get you to 12. We've got to get you to become Liam Jones. And then you work on Lewis Young to get better, and then you work out your balance sheet from there. So, but Peter Wright's taken 5 marks inside 50, kicking 5 goals. At some point, you've got to say, hey, we probably have to go away from this matchup.
So this is they got that right. We go to the other side of the coin with Essendon, the return of Peter Wright and how that's been plotted out, what it might mean for Essendon. So the Bombers are living the season that Carlton aspired to, is the 8-5 inside the 8 and the warm glow of possibility as they reach the bye.
Yeah, and some stars to come back too. Like these are the ins we're talking about, Parrish and Shield, and Setterfield's become an important player for them. He wasn't as important to Carlton, but he's important to the Bombers. I love their centre bounce work. I think it's the best in the competition. They're plus 14 goals on their opposition from centre bounce. Well, that's a huge number. So imagine walking into every game saying, "Well, we're going to win this area when it's 4-on-4 by a goal every week."
And at big moments too.
And at big moments, they're big plays.
Think the Richmond game, think the Carlton game when it's in the balance.
They're great emotional lifters, centre bounce goals, because you might have just kicked the previous, also you go bang bang, and you can put some gap on the opposition or reel them in quicker than they've had to toil and labour. So they've kicked 28 goals in total from centre bounces. So prior to yesterday's game, I haven't checked, I haven't updated that from yesterday's game. That was the best in the competition.
I think they might have got 5 from centre bounce.
They got
Sunday
4.
Night. 4.
Yeah, they got 4. And they've done that. They've done that 3 other times for the year. So this is a significant asset, and I think a lot comes down to the ruckman, who just plays with such passion. He stuffs a few things up, big drapes, but when he's in the game and invested, he's one of those energy. He's their Tom Papley. He's their tall Tom Papley. He just brings energy for the group, and it's hard. It's hard to fall in love with their profile from a numbers point of view, because all the numbers say this type of profile doesn't win finals. But it's sort of, when you see it, it's not as obvious. It looks really threatening at times.
Yep.
So I take my hat off to Brad Scott for being able to get this group in sync so quickly. They look organised. They look like they know what the other's about to do. So they're a threat.
So I just want to reiterate my caution. There's this notion that Essendon have got the easiest draw on the way home, and it keeps getting said, so it keeps reinforcing. Their next 4 are Freo in Perth, Port Adelaide, and Geelong.
Wow.
So there's this idea that they're 8-5, they've got this easy draw, they're playing finals. They're doing a great job. And Brad knows it. He keeps talking about the improvement, and he's not getting swallowed up in the idea. But if they lost the next 4, we'd go, yeah, that's okay. That's okay. And they'd be 8-9. Now, they may very well be good enough to win that, but those next 4 are really challenging. And then they go to Bulldogs, and then they hit Sydney. They've got the back-to-back games, which is skewing everything, which is West Coast and North Melbourne. So they get their 2 wins there. Then they play the Giants in Sydney, and they finish against Collingwood. It's the easiest thing to say without having to look at the draw. Essendon's got the easiest run home. They don't. They'll get thoroughly tested in the next 4 weeks just to work out where they sit in the scheme of things. And this is why Brad keeps talking about, you just mark the progress that they're making. It is undeniable. It's not just in the wins and the losses.
Yeah, no, it's a good call. There is no easy draws. I mean, there's a couple of easy teams out there to play, but the rest How do you know what sort of form and health they're going to be in when you and what sort of health you're going to be in?
Yeah, and one of the things is they play North again. Well, that North Melbourne game went to the final minute, was decided by a kick, and they've got it again at Marvel at the end. So who's to say what that looks? I just think the biggest misnomer being peddled at the moment is that Essendon are certainties because they've got an easy draw. No, Essendon will make the finals because of the progression and improvement that they're making, and they'll get thoroughly tested along the way.
I still think their biggest wins in the back half of the year will be the signature of the halfback flanker in Redmond,
Instead of Redmond
and the on-baller in Parish.
Yeah.
If they lose either of those two players, that's something that knocks you around. In my opinion, going forward, I think Parish is a star. Some are saying you can find midfielders everywhere. I'm not convinced that you can find them at that level. You can hunt for a long time for that midfielder. You can go 3 drafts trying to find that midfielder.
Yep. Dan has texted through, I'm a calm, rational Blues fan and 3 points to make. 1, I'm taking my 3-year-old to his first game this weekend and he can't wait. 2, Sam Walsh speaks well and is a future captain, a calming leader. And 3, last year is learning. This year is learning and we'll get through this. Get a few more strategic heads around Vossy and we could be in the 8 by next year. Not all doom and gloom.
Can we just say that I want the off-field staff, the hierarchy, to start to help Vossy. That's enough chatter now about where they're going with him, how long he's contracted for, what they're doing. They should just say, look, we're not having those conversations. We don't have those conversations outside of these media interviews. So don't expect us to have them on air. Just say nothing. Take the pressure off the guy and let him get on with his job.
Simon Goodwin and Justin Longmuir with us last night on 360. I thought Longmuir did a great job in explaining the level of confusion. One with an arm pinned, one not. One with the head hitting the ground, player gets up, one not. And where we find ourselves with a dangerous tackle. So it'll be all eyes to the tribunal tonight, not just fandom, but in clubland as well, to see how these 2 latest examples land. The debate is for Syfe, smarter investing, backed by the pros. Download Syfe. Where do you think we are with the dangerous tackle, David King?
Well, we're back at the start of where we were with the bump. So it's going the same way. It's just we're trying to get there quicker. So we stuffed up the bump at the start. We were too lenient. We made excuses. Yeah, you're right. No, he didn't really mean to do this. He didn't really mean to. We'll let him off this one. Then we'd suspend the next one. Then we'd let one off. We were confusing the competition with that until we took an absolute stance. And now I think we've worked our way through that. We've got 100% clarity on that. And if you make a mistake, you do your weeks. No one's really over the top or up in arms about it. We've gone to the extreme with the tackle as a starting point, which is trying to short circuit the lag that we had with the bump. I don't mind it because every player knows that if you do twist or drive them into the ground or sling them in any way, shape or form, that's weeks. So regardless of what happens, regardless of whether he's knocked out, if the head hits the ground and he's not knocked out, you're still in trouble, which is, I think, a great stance, a great starting point. I don't have the sympathy that others do. I understand there's a little bit of confusion, but not with most of the ones we're talking about. Are you confused with the Sicily one?
I think the Sicily one is complex.
Yeah. Are you confused with it though?
No, I thought it would get great. So I was calling. I think your best reactions are in real time, and I think it's the ones that make you wince.
Yeah.
Instinctively, you go, I know how this is going to pan out. So I thought both would be graded by the MRO. Both belong at the tribunal tonight to be tested while we just work out where the parameters are. So I showed the Nick Holman rundown tackle of Mitch Duncan last night. That's 2 years ago.
Yep.
It ends in a concussion, pinned. At the time, we're all of the view he was given a 2-match suspension. That just didn't make sense with where the game was. It was overturned at the tribunal. 2 years on, you look at that and go, well, that'd be 3 weeks in this day and age.
Because we toe in the water, weren't we?
Well, we probably hadn't even put the toe in the water. I think Kane's right, and this is where the AFL suffers by not having a head of footy to speak to it. This is so.
See, I don't agree with that.
Right.
Because the clubs were sent a video and explained what and some clubs have chosen, the same people you spoke to last night haven't even shown their players or spoken to their players about it. So what difference would it make if someone was verbally...
No, sorry, I didn't articulate that right. To fandom. So us trying to follow the game.
Yeah.
And I think we get bad commentary around this. Some of the ex-players swing in with absolutely no knowledge of the system, of the rules, or how the year's been going, and they lead the conversation. and it leads it totally into the gravel. That doesn't reflect the reality of 2023 in any way. So it's an interesting thing to say, but it's not based in reality. So what's the AFL's endpoint and how they're going to get there? So tonight's 2 test cases. Do you expect Dan Butler to be suspended?
Yeah.
What did he do wrong?
What did he do wrong? Well, I think if you look at it closely, there is a significant twist in the last motion.
A drive into the ground.
A drive into the ground.
Yep.
And it's unlucky because he's probably been tackling like that for 15 years, but the game doesn't allow it now. And I think the Sicily one, he does twist and put him into a whip of sorts. And is he unlucky that his head hits the ground like that? Absolutely. But he's got no. He doesn't know how it's going to finish when he starts. So we're saying don't start it. Make the tackle once you've made, and maybe we've got to look at how long the player can be held in a tackle before we make a decision, because the extra twist is often 1 second into the tackle. So maybe the game needs to help the tacklers a little bit, and that gets back to Kane's point that if we had someone in that chair, they could be making these corrections. But I do think as a starting point, we have to go full length on this. If they reverse the good work of the start, we will be nowhere again. And I know there's some unlucky players in the interim. There was with the bump, and there will be again now. But so be it, because the other side is no good. So seeing Hugh McCluggage on the ground like that is no good.
Yeah, so I think that's a little bit of that's been missed. So does McCluggage's head and neck end up into the ground because of excessive rotation from Sicily? I think the answer to that is yes. What role does Brockman's presence play? I think that absolutely complicates how that ended up. So the tribunal has, in these cases, discretion. So I would find Sicily guilty tonight, and the table says 3+ weeks. I would intervene in that and say there are a set of circumstances here that are unfortunate. So there is a degree of culpability which we think meets careless, and so a suspension, but we don't think the totality of it results in 3 weeks. And that's the one we're going to peg back because it's not a rigid one-size-fits-all. We give Sicily a week because the action we do regard as careless and dangerous, but just the whole circumstance we're not comfortable marries up with 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'd be disappointed if that happened. I think you make the case that there are mitigating circumstances and he gets off because of there are mitigating. We can't rationalise percentages. You're either guilty. I like the fact that we've charged them initially. We've sent the message. So this is a great starting point. Now he either gets off or he gets weeks, and I'm comfortable either way with the challenge. But we have to have that starting point. And I understand the fans are angry with it because we've started at the extreme. But it'll pare back from there and players will adjust. They adjust quick. They've adjusted super quick with the bump now that we've taken a course. They'll do the same with the tackle. Just bear with it for 6 weeks and be prepared to lose one of your players for a couple.
Yeah, so I think we're at 19 suspensions with 2 overturned and 2 pending tonight. All right, run PFI over the Lions for me because I was all in on the Lions. I'm a bit shook by that performance.
Yeah, well, they got some work to do, haven't they? And I understand that there'd be Fags be at a loss to explain that performance because in the main they're in pretty good shape, and it was a shock loss. Is the only way to sort of put it down. I don't know if it has anything to do with the MCG, but it's a great storyline for us. I think we cling to those things more than the clubs do. I guess we touched on this on AFL 360 last week. They don't have an architect at halfback. They don't have the freewheeling halfback flanker that can change the course of a game. And when they get jammed up and can't move the ball, it hits you between the eyes. I said they needed Dane Zorko at halfback. He's played there before, just to take some risk. They have Kitty Coleman as the sub on the weekend, and I think, well, that's interesting. Why are they doing that? And I've been tracking this for a few weeks. I'm going to show some vision on AFL 360 on Wednesday night regarding Daniel Rich. I don't think you have to have a look at the balance sheet of what he brings and what he costs. And I keep coming back to, opposition coaches now orchestrating speed on the game through Daniel Rich's man. Now there was a large part of the weekend where he was holding as a +1, a loose man behind the ball at times. And I think that's because he can't travel with his opponent, so he has to hold off. So he gives the opposition some luxuries. I don't know if he can do that. And this is against Hawthorn in round 13.
Yep.
So I'm not worried about Hawthorn in round 13. I'm worried about preliminary final night, where he's up against a player that can seriously run. And he has to pick his poison between Gary Rowan, Brian Myers, Close, or any of those guys that can seriously go. And it becomes a foot race and he's gone. We had great vision of that in the Adelaide game, which I'll show, which was Lachlan Murphy that put him to the sword in a matter of steps, 3 or 4 steps. So right now, for me, I think they've got a decision to make whether Daniel Rich is part of this premiership tilt. And now that's a harsh thing to say about one guy, but great clubs, premiership winning clubs, make tough decisions. Nathan Jones was the toughest of tough decisions for Melbourne. And it was made because they said, we have to win the flag. Max Holmes was declared fit to play in a grand final last year, and Chris Scott said, I'm taking no chances. This is not about the one player. This is about the team. These are the sorts of decisions that shape who you become. Are you a good footy club or are you a great footy club? So I think they've got a few weeks, and we talked about this at the start of the program, they've got a few weeks to make that decision, but they're going to make it because there's a hole there, and I think the balance sheet is trending to the negative rather than the positive.
The worst bit of the weekend is West Coast again, I think. Another 100-point drubbing. We've had the in-depth conversations around the Eagles. Where does it have us after round 13 in our means test?
There's no easy answers here, and this is a really tough sledding now, isn't it? This is hard. You can see it on the coach's face in game, and I guess all the fans are hurting. Everyone's hurting. The clubs come to the end of this group in a lot of ways, and he said it himself. They're going to get a lot younger than they are right now in the next 12 months to 18 months.
So that was really interesting as to the how does that happen. As soon as I heard that, I thought, okay, so how are they going to get a glut of early draft picks, particularly given that they've just re-signed a couple of their veterans?
Well, they're clearly going to go down the path of, not the Hawthorn path, they're going to go down the path of you need some senior core players around the edges to show the way, which I don't mind. And if they're low cost, then I think that's okay. If they're the right people with the right standards setting the tone, I think that's okay. There's probably not a lot of currency to trade in terms of getting high draft picks. It's not going to happen, is it? So I mean,
not really. But but you have to transform into the one of the youngest lists rapidly, which was the declaration that was made.
Yeah,
I am absolutely intrigued as to how you do that.
Well, they'll have pick 1, and there'll be offers for pick 1 that may be 3 first-round picks.
Yeah. So can you get the 3 best kids in Western Australia in one go, for instance?
Yeah, you can. Of course you can. And I think we talked about that weeks ago, and it's only just gathering some momentum now. Melbourne was the club that was. So it's a good time to be good. If you can afford to trade into pick 1 with the West Coast Eagles, you can get the boom kid Harley Reid. So I don't know the plan. They have had a plan. They've had a plan for 18 months, Jared. And the fact that they've got this injury line up and it looks as bad as what it's ever looked now is unfortunate for them. It's unfortunate for Simo. I don't know whether they'll get to the point where they say, you know what, we just need a change. It would be an expensive decision to make, but they've got plenty in the bank. So if that's the decision, well, that's the decision. I don't think they'll do that because I just think that they've been all on the same page for 18 months, knowing how they were going to strategically do it. They don't have to let us in on that. And why would they? Because they just give up. They just give up their intel and their advantage, and then planning. You don't do that. No one business doesn't tell another their strategic plan. So we just have to wait and see and work out for ourselves whether we like it or not. But at the end of the day, they're the West Coast Eagles calls, And whether they be right or be wrong, we'll probably only know in hindsight.
How close are they getting to the change for change's sake?
Yeah, I think that's always an option, isn't it? I mean, that's an option for every club, but is it the right decision? You just got to make the right decision for the football club. Now, whether that's Adam, whether that's someone else, then so be it. They're all big boys. They've had great success. There'll be a shaking of hands. There's no angst there. But is it the right decision for the footy club? And some will say yes. Some will say we've come to the end of this coach with this group, but it won't be this group. Is the secondary point to that? So I think that all decisions, all balls are in the air, but you've got to make the right decision for the football club. Be right or be wrong with Adam. Sorry, do that with Adam Simpson or not, but you must make the right decision.
A couple of rapid fire categories to finish out with. The curiosity. The Bulldogs are eminently curious.
The Dogs.
They're fascinating. They've lost their last three from a position of they'd finally opened up the possibilities, and they just weren't in the same weight division as Port Adelaide, and Luke Beveridge conceded that in the aftermath.
I've talked about Aaron Naughton for 8 weeks, and I just don't understand it anymore. Is he a marquee player in our comp anymore?
Not currently.
He's been targeted 20 times in 4 weeks. 20 times. I just told you they went to Tex Walker 17 times on the weekend. 20 times in 4 weeks. So that's one in every fifth opportunity for the Dogs. Compare that to Franklin at 43%, Larkey at 40, Rewalt and Mackay at 35. He's at 20%. And I look at their backline, it's a mess. Their backline is a mess. They're 18th in the competition since round 8. They've won 2 of 26 one-on-ones in their D50. They're a neutralising back six. They bring the ball to ground. So they don't necessarily stop the problem. They just shift it to ground ball. They need this guy down back. They've had Bruce down there for 6 games, O'Brien down there for 6 games, Gardner down there for 5 games, Keith down there for 5 games. The only constant has been Liam Jones, who's been there all 13 games. James O'Donnell's been half down back, half forward across his 5 games. Those players haven't worked. So you can keep spinning those same magnets, but you know what you're going to get. You have to have a look at it. I don't understand it. And if he's your trump card, well, he's taken 7 contested marks and 7 uncontested marks in the last 4 weeks. So what is it? So I think there's huge problems at the Dogs. And if the season just peters out the way it is, there will be and there should be significant pressure. Because this is a list that is far better than what it's delivering upon.
And the open question, just briefly, what's going on at Richmond under McQualter? It's really, they're just an open question.
I got off too early. I was on the bus, then I got off the bus. And they know they've got the best plan in football. I keep saying that they have. They've got the best system in footy, and they struggled for motivation for a little bit there under the previous coach, and he maybe struggled to motivate them at the end of his tenure. And that was why the call was made, and now you see why it was made.
He couldn't cook the sausages
anymore. He couldn't cook the snag anymore. The fire had gone out on the barbie, and they got the new bloke in with the new gas tank, and away they go, Jared. So
look, the bottle in, and there they are.
Been outstanding. I mean, Bolton's the reason. If you're looking for one player, what he's been able to do has been remarkable, and then everyone else just plays a lesser role, and that's where they're suited. They've still got some really good kids coming through. I really like Judson Clark. I like what he does. Mansell looks better. I know he's going to be in trouble with the MRO, but he's looking better every week. There's a kid called Taranto that goes all right in the middle there, Jared. He's in pretty good form. So I like what they've done. I like what they're doing. It's a pretty settled footy club. It's a good footy club with some proud warriors who are not just going to allow the season to just fall away.
Yeah, it's the best job to come up in years, this Richmond job.
Best job?
Yep. Best job to come up in years. Couldn't get into that job fast enough, I reckon, with the strength and stability of the club. And they'll have to go through a period of transition.
The better job is Port Adelaide, 2024.
Oh, that's locked. That's locked.
That's locked.
They'll feature in the seating, so we might delve a little bit deeper then. With
do you know something?
Oh, they just it's
do you know something?
We sat the exam, and the candidate got 100%. You go, 100. Oh, that's the end of it. We put him through the exam. He was great. Salute. You graduate with honours. Well done. Here's the next 3 years. All right.
All of it.
Seedings. 4.
Well, you have to put them back in. I have to put them back in. Melbourne, that's a performance you can't ignore. Defensively brilliant. And to see Big Max do what he did, see Viney get back to doing what he did without Clayton Oliver in there. Yep, they've got some work to do, but they're at 4.
Brisbane Lions are at 4 for me. I have had them at 2. I was really disappointed. They slide a couple of places. 3?
Brisbane for me. Still think if they can hang in, they're doing a lot right. If they can hang in that home final situation through a prelim, they'll get there. But they may have to win first week on the road to have the home prelim, but they could still do that. I mean, if it was Port Adelaide and Brisbane in week 1 of the finals, it'd be a cracker.
3 is Melbourne for me. Everything that we knew about their defence, their contested ball work, still the open question around their forward line, absolutely at 3. They climb a place. 2?
The Incredibles, Port Adelaide, the 3 midfielders are taking them places, Jared. Love to see it. They're playing some brilliant football. It's going to be a cracker Thursday night. Port Adelaide versus Geelong. I'm not saying what they've done, I'm not dismissing the 10 wins in a row by any stretch, but against the best coach team, and they'll have some stars coming back, the Cats. This Thursday night, I reckon it shows you the levels of both clubs, really. But I'm looking forward to seeing Port's mids, the young mids versus the old Cats.
First class honours for Ken Hinkley. I'm gonna say Thursday night. I'm gonna move them to 1 if they beat Geelong. They're at 2 at the moment.
They've always been 1 in your heart.
1.
It's embarrassing the way
Still
you
Collingwood.
love Ken. Still Collingwood. Perfect time to have a loss. The troops are coming back. Look out.